Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm doing a little extra episode here, mostly about this weekend's fight, Waterson versus Jędrzejczyk, and also the Kron Gracie fight. A couple comments he made. First off, everybody in my last video is talking about Joanna Jędrzejczyk's breast enhancements. Okay, first off, she made weight, so it's a non-issue now. The reason I didn't bring it up and I didn't mention it is that happened in January. She got an augmentation. She got enhancements, whatever you want to call them. She knew how much they weighed for months. Her team, her camp, whatever you want to call it, went to the UFC last week and said she's not going to make the weight. Once again, a non-issue. She made the weight today, if you're paying attention. But that is what I was talking about. The timing is weird. You know how much your breasts weigh when you get them. She knew what she had to do months ago. And the fact that she didn't make weight or wasn't going to make weight a week ago, that's the weird part. It implies something happened late in camp. Everybody in the comment section about my last video is talking about her breasts. Yeah, but she knew that months ago, what they weighed and what that's going to take out of her cut and all these things. The idea that her camp just a week ago said she isn't going to make it, that's what I was talking about. The timing of them saying she's not going to make it. In the beginning of camp, if they said, look, she's not going to make it, or she gets into camp, she starts shredding weight, she's not going to make it, then you go, okay, the breasts were just too much. But the fact that a week ago she said she wasn't going to make it, that's the weird part. That's why I didn't necessarily bring up the breast enhancements or anything like that. So Kron Gracie had an interview where he commented about Cub Swanson's claim that he got kicked out of jiu-jitsu schools because he was facing a Gracie and they didn't want to train him. A few interesting things about the interview. My thoughts, as soon as I read this, that Cub Swanson had been kicked out of jiu-jitsu studios because they didn't want to train him against a Gracie. I don't know how many of you watching this do jiu-jitsu or are part of the jiu-jitsu scene. I've watched Gracies compete for years. I never saw the other team's corner refuse to coach their guy against a Gracie, ever. I saw Kron compete, I saw Huron compete, I saw Henner compete, Halleck, Clark I saw compete, and the other teams competed and coached against him. So the idea that you couldn't find a school that would teach you, unless it's a Rickson Gracie affiliate, or if it's Henner or Huron or close to their cousin, that's it. There are plenty of teams that aren't affiliated with Rickson Gracie that will coach you against Kron or any other Rickson student. Doesn't matter. There are plenty of schools that aren't affiliated with Rickson. So that was the first thing I thought is you can't find a non-Rickson school, a non-Rickson affiliate that'll coach you. That's ridiculous. That was the first thing I thought. The second thing is something Kron said in the interview. He goes, doesn't he already have a jiu-jitsu coach? Doesn't he already have somebody? Why is he looking for somebody now to train him in jiu-jitsu? He's a black belt himself, I think, under Machado. Why doesn't he go to a Machado school and train? So when Kron brought that up, it was the first thing I thought when this story came out is, first, there are plenty of schools that will train you against a Gracie as long as they're not an affiliate of that particular Gracie. And secondly, you already have a jiu-jitsu team, don't you? Don't you already have a jiu-jitsu coach? You've been in this a long time. So what Kron brought up that I found kind of surprising is he went, well, duh. He actually said that. He goes, well, duh, of course they wouldn't train him against me. As if all of jiu-jitsu is on his side and his team. That's weird because as I just said, there are plenty of schools that aren't affiliated with Rickson Gracie. I've seen Kron compete against plenty of other schools that were hoping he lost. Baja Gracie, all these other teams he competed against, they weren't screaming for the Gracie. They were screaming for their guy. The idea that kind of every jiu-jitsu school rallies around the Gracie, that doesn't happen anymore. And even back in the day, there were Gracies that didn't get along and schools that weren't affiliated with so-and-so. And so there's always been a wide diversity in jiu-jitsu schools. It isn't a matter of, oh, it's Kron, so we all get out of the way and we won't coach against him. That's ridiculous. Every time I saw Kron compete, when I was competing, the other team yelled against him and coached against him and all these things. So the idea that all of jiu-jitsu is kind of Kron's team, and he went, yeah, of course they wouldn't train him against me. Well, there are plenty of schools that would train your opponent. That doesn't make very much sense. And he brought up the idea of a créance. Créance means like jiu-jitsu traitor. If you start with one school and you go to a different school, you're a créance. You're a backstabbing traitor. I understand, of course, as the son of Rickson Gracie, why he would feel that way. He's been affiliated with one team his entire life, and that team is literally family to him. But that concept is, A, increasingly archaic when it comes to MMA as a sport, and jiu-jitsu, especially in the United States. Now, one of the traditions that I've heard over and over and over, one of the stock things I've heard from jiu-jitsu coaches making the transition from Brazil to the United States is, here it's a business. And from someone will do jiu-jitsu from the time they're young, but when they hit adulthood, they have to get a job and do other stuff, and they leave. In America, a lot of people discover jiu-jitsu late, where they do some other sport, through their teens or whatever. They get a job, and then, I want to stay in shape, or I've heard about this jiu-jitsu thing, I want to try it out. So they start as adults. They start much later in America than they do in Brazil. As a result, you're not taking in kids off the street. You're not taking in kids who aren't paying. If you're an attorney and you want to do jiu-jitsu 2 or 3 nights a week to stay in shape, and you're paying for it, you don't tell me how often to come to class. You don't tell me to compete in a tournament. You don't tell me any of this stuff. I don't owe you anything. It's seen a lot more in the United States as like a gym membership. I pay to go to 24 Hour Fitness. If I show up at the front desk and the guy goes, haven't been here in a while, I'm a little disappointed, I'd go, fuck yourself. Come here whenever I want. I pay every month. I can not show up at all if I fucking feel like it. That attitude is more prevalent in the United States than is in Brazil. In Brazil, where they might start young and they might take you in as a kid and maybe not charge you or whatever, they kind of have more of a right to be demanding of your time and your loyalty. And I've heard from a lot of jiu-jitsu coaches that in America, you have to get used to, it's a business. They pay you. And if they don't want to compete, or they don't want to show up, or they don't want to whatever their limits are, too bad. They pay you every month to teach them jiu-jitsu, and they show up when they show up. There's less of that, you're my team, you owe me, and it doesn't work that way as much here. Especially if you're not a competition person or don't want to be a pro MMA fighter or something like that. I'm not demanding much of your time. And if I am, you get paid. So the modern team structure in MMA is, Jackson Wink or AKA or American Top Team, they get a percentage of your purse to pay you and manage you, whatever it is. You get paid. It's a business. I pay you your cut. As soon as you take money for something, you can't then turn around and go, you owe me loyalty. No, I pay you every time. Now, there are certain loyalty factors and family and all these things. Those are certainly factors. But the idea that this is my team and it's my team for life, it's nice, but it's also, look, I pay you. And if I feel I'm not getting the training that I need, I'm going to go somewhere else that's going to give me the training I need. This is a business. I pay you, you give me training. If I don't feel the training is satisfactory, it's a marketplace. I'll go somewhere else and pay them. So that idea of Cleonch, that this is my team and I never leave, sure, it's worked so far for Rickson's son, Kron. It's worked out for him so far. But he also hasn't lost. He also hasn't had that slide in his career. That's one thing that's very important to keep in mind is loyalty is great, but when you need a change and you need something different and this team that you're with isn't flexible or adaptable or doesn't offer what you need, it's up to you as an individual to get what you need. It's an individual sport. They're not going in there with you. So you only have one career. You need as many wins as you can. You got to make your money. And if this team isn't helping me do that, don't know what to tell you. You got to move on. And of course, there's bitterness and acrimony and all these things. But as MMA has gotten more professional, that idea of lifetime team loyalty is just, it's not what it used to be. It was when I first started. It really was. There was a lot more, especially rivalries between teams and animosity between camps in jiu-jitsu, for sure. It was way bigger. When you trained with so-and-so and that was it. You didn't go to another gym to work out or train or open mat or anything. It was that's your team and that's it. That has really gone by the wayside a lot. When I moved from LA, where I was under Hey Diogo, who's Carlson Gracie, and I moved out here to Florida, I looked for another Carlson Gracie gym. Because I'm with Carlson Gracie, I don't want to leave the team, so I found a Carlson Gracie out here. Now, it's fantastic. I get great training, love the guys there, love the team there. If I didn't, or if they were too far away, I got to do jiu-jitsu somewhere. And if there isn't a Carlson Gracie near me, then I got to go to Baja Gracie, or I got to go to some other team and figure it out, or do something else. And that's the way it goes. I, of course, would want to stay with Carlson Gracie, and I was able to, but sometimes you can't. And those jiu-jitsu rivalries and stuff, a lot of times, too, they go back 30 years, 40 years, and they have nothing to do with me. I remember one time I was competing at my old school, not my current one, my old school, and this guy had a problem with the other coach and was like, yeah, screw that guy and his team. And I was like, that has nothing to do with me. They have some beef that went back 15, 20 years. I'm like, that's nothing to do with me. Why are you putting it on me and this guy or his blue belt, that I got to beat this guy or else, you're ashamed? Because I'm just like, that has nothing to do with me. And once again, it's a very American concept. That's not your beef with this guy that goes back 30 years has nothing to do with me. So that's the flip side of that crayonch concept, is this rivalry that started before I was born has something to do with my performance now in a tournament against some guy I've never met before. So it still exists and it's still real, but it isn't how it used to be at all. And I think that's always wrong, to put your feelings about a particular team or a particular person on your guy, on your fighter, who's already stressed enough and has to deal with enough stuff without worrying about your rivalry with the other guy's coach and all this stuff. It's a ridiculous thing, but Kron came out and spoke about it, and his attitude seemed to be, yeah, of course they wouldn't trade him against me. But I found that hard to believe, because the nature of jiu-jitsu as a sport and as a business, that a non-Hickson affiliate wouldn't train Cub Swanson's a little weird. Another thing that one of the comments that came up about Joanna Jędrzejczyk is, let me see if I can find it here. Oh, here's one I want to talk about. Ben Lundgren. He put, the balance of power in MMA comes from competition in MMA venues, and also competition when you have a great athlete, they can state their demands. MMA has never been this good for fighters as it is now. If you look at the long run, let's say the last 20 years, fighters have more opportunity and more options. That is unbelievably wrong, Ben. You don't remember the Pride days when there were big shows in Hawaii, there were big shows in Japan, there were big shows, multiple big shows in the United States. You go to Strikeforce, you go to the UFC. The ceiling is lower now. Was lower then, meaning the greatest fighters on earth just didn't make a lot of money, but a lot of places could pay you that amount. Where the ceiling was, you could make that fighting at shows in Hawaii. You can make it fighting in shows all over the world that were UFC level. Meaning UFC, it wasn't just, the UFC's way up here and everybody else is way down here. There was Strikeforce, there was UFC, there was Pride, there was Rumble on the Rock, there was became Icon Sport, there was Icon Sports, which was Super Brawl. There was all kinds of stuff all over the country. Local shows paid a lot of money. So fighters I know that fought in the UFC would then go to a local show, make 10 grand and go back to the UFC, and guys bounced around a lot. BJ Penn left UFC because he wasn't making enough money. Murillo Bustamante left UFC because he wasn't making enough money. And they found places to fight overseas. So the landscape of MMA, the ceiling's higher. What a great fighter can make is much, much higher than it was back then. But the overall ability to bounce around and do more as a free agent was way better years ago. So I noticed that, and I had to talk about that. Everybody is talking about, not everybody, but I got a lot of these, like, she's not taking it seriously anymore. She's just not mentally into it anymore. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, people equate somehow the boob job with her not taking MMA seriously anymore. We would have seen that in her performance against Shevchenko. She would have mailed it in. We would have seen that in her rematch with Rose Namajunas. She would have mailed it in. And she didn't in either one of those times. Very close fight against Rose Namajunas, lost by 1 round on my scorecard. And then Shevchenko, she was just outgunned. But when you're as clearly outgunned as she was against Shevchenko, if you're not mentally in it and you don't want it, easy to check out. Easy to check out, go into a defensive shell. And if she were checked out, she just wants to make money on the internet now. And okay, she would not have gone toe-to-toe with Shevchenko as often as she did. She would have gone, fuck this, I can be an Instagram model, don't have to worry about it. That would be the fight where we'd have seen that decline, and we didn't. So the people on my comment section who are saying that Joanna Jędrzejczyk is mentally out of it, she might be Saturday, but we haven't seen that beforehand. There's no fight you can point to. Yeah, she's 1-3 in her last 4. You can't point to a performance other than maybe the first Rose fight where she just got taken by surprise, where she isn't trying to win. She isn't mentally and physically in the fight. You can't point that out to me. So that's an issue too. If she were just checked out, I want to be an Instagram model or whatever people think, we would have seen that already because she had opportunities to check out and she did not. People are talking about Fedor's chin against Rampage too. Don't you think that Fedor's chin has diminished a lot and Rampage can knock him out easily? He can certainly knock him out because he's heavy-handed. Has it gone to shit completely? No. I mean, he's been knocked out, but those are also very heavy hitters. The chin in the heavyweight division, it's hard to say, boy, that shot shouldn't have knocked out a prime Fedor. Man, Ryan Bader cleaned his ass. Absolutely cleaned him. The only one that was maybe a questionable chin shot since his first loss, maybe Dan Henderson, but Dan Henderson's a hard hitter, so it isn't as though Dan doesn't have heavy hands, but, when you get clipped on the chin by a heavyweight, you're going down. And Fedor had a good chin in his prime, but he didn't get hit that much. That's an important thing to keep in mind is we didn't see those like, man, he could stand there and just take a shot. He was usually quicker. That's the difference. More than Fedor's chin is his speed. He slowed down a lot. His offense has slowed down a lot. He used to be so quick, and he used to move his head along with his punches so incredibly well. He didn't get hit that much. And so the idea that his chin's gone, I don't know if it's gone. I don't know if it was ever there. It's a matter of he used to stick and hit and move and had such a flow to his offense, it was very hard to time him. I think as he's slowed down and gotten older, it's just been easier to time him, not so much that his chin's gone. So that's my answer to that. Anyway, so there's an extra video for this Saturday about little things that have been coming up. I think it's going to be a great card. And I will do a post-fight show afterward. Thank you very much.